Well, the last two winners of the Champions League are out of this year's tournament, as two Spanish teams are through to the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League. We're talking about Real Madrid and, of course, Villarreal. The teams out: last year's winners Chelsea and the previous year's champions Bayern Munich. Yesterday was such an exciting day, and we anticipate a really good matchup on this second day of quarter-final action in the UEFA Champions League. Wherever you're watching, thank you so much for joining our coverage here on the Home of Champions. My name is Donald Oliver, and it's a privilege to bring you a quarter-final round action in the Champions League. Two guests with me, our usual guests. One at Anfield, but we'll get to them in just a moment. Just to remind you of the scores yesterday, with Chelsea scoring that 3-2 win over Real Madrid, and of course Bayern Munich and Villarreal, that one ending up in a draw in the second leg. So Villarreal from that draw goes through on following their win in the first leg, and of course the two matches today: Atletico Madrid against Manchester City, and of course Liverpool against Benfica. So telling about the guests that we have this afternoon, two familiar faces. Brent Sancho, of course, the former. Of course, Simon Evans. He's joining us live from Anfield, and we always hear about the Champions League nights at Anfield, and of course he's very much a part of that atmosphere, and we'll hear from both of them now, because yesterday was so exciting, and want to know from both of you, starting with Simon, your expectations on today's two matches.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a different story from last night. I think Liverpool coming into this game against Benfica with the advantage they've got, that 3-1 advantage, will not expect to have any of the drama we saw in Madrid. But, you know, who knows? Benfica are a good side. They've got some attacking talent and could make things difficult. But the first goal is going to set the tone for this whole game. And then the other game, of course, Manchester City. You know, going there with that one goal advantage, Atletico Madrid need to play a more expansive game than they usually do if they're to get anything out of that game.
All right, before we hear from Brent, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with much more after this. Stay with us. Atletico Madrid and that matchup with Manchester City, it really is a match to look forward to. Of course, 1-0 from the first leg, Kevin De Bruyne on the score sheet. And I'm now going to join quickly with Brent Sancho just to hear his thoughts on what he expects from both these matchups today, including the Liverpool-Benfica game. Brent, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think there's a strong belief, and rightfully so, but Jurgen Klopp and his charges to think that they have 1 foot in the semi-finals. Of course, a terrific performance in the first leg in Benfica. Now they move ahead to close the deal. I think the next game, Man City, between Atletico Madrid, is still quite nicely poised. We all know the type of approach that Atletico Madrid and Diego Simeone has for his team. The question is he now going to break that mold? Is he now going to attempt to play a bit high up the park? Is he attempt to try to of course, pressure Liverpool and of course, take the initiative to Liverpool? I think that those questions will lead to the answer as to who's the next team that will be joining in the semi-finals.
Simon, as we take a look at this quarterfinal matchup between City and Atletico Madrid, I guess the question is, how will Atletico Madrid approach this second leg? Of course, it's a team known for sitting back and soaking up a lot of the pressure, but based on the fact that they're behind now on the tie, what kind of game are you expecting from them in this second leg?
Well, it's not going to go from one extreme to the other. I don't think we're going to see Atletico Madrid come out and pile forward and attack Manchester City from the first minute. I think they will be aware it's only one goal, and that one goal means their normal counter-attacking game, they would expect to create some opportunities and get something out of the game. The question obviously then becomes, the longer the game goes on, the more they would be forced to open up if they haven't got that goal or another one. So I wouldn't expect a massive change. Also, bear in mind Manchester City's way of playing. They usually manage to impose their possession game on whoever they're playing against. So I wouldn't expect a massive shift in pattern, but there is that onus on Atletico. They know they have to get something from the attacking third of the field this time.
Brent, if anything, Pep Guardiola has been criticized on so many occasions in terms of tampering with his starting lineup and not adjusting to match situations. How do you think he will approach this Atletico Madrid team in the second leg, knowing that he has the advantage?
I think very similar to what he did in the first leg. He's going to want to dominate possession. He's going to want to create chances. Of course, he's going to want to create overloads on the sides of the pitch. And everything that's typical with Manchester City. So I see it very much the same. I see the game pattern out very much the same. As I said, questions really are for Atletico Madrid, whether they're not now going to try to play higher up the park. And as Simon
all right. We seem to be having some issue with the audio from Brent Sancho. We're going to be working on that. But let's now hear from Pep Guardiola, who doesn't expect Atletico Madrid to be playing the same game they did in the first leg.
Well, we travel with a sure result, with intention to win the game. Try to see the score in the last 5-10 minutes. It depends on what it is. So I think will be slightly different like the first leg, because they play at home, and home they create the momentums, real ones, through their own game, because you are not playing good, for the passion that all the fans through the history they have. There will be moments that they will be so aggressive, higher, and create problems, and
just
adapt and try to defend in that moments.
Simon, we do expect it to be a chess match, but last time out, they didn't have a shot on target. I don't think they even had a corner. So they have to change somewhat in this second leg. It's not just about trying to repeat what happened in the first leg, right?
Yeah, I think what they'll try and do is make their counter-attacking game more effective. I mean, the problem they had at City was, it's one thing to come there with two banks of five and defend, but then you hope to be effective on the break. And it was only once or twice that they really threatened City. So what they've got to do is not overhaul the whole system. Simeone's not going to do that. He's going to say, let's counter-attack at the right moments and do it more effectively than we did at the Etihad Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, of course, City in their last time out, Simon, in the English Premier League would have conceded a couple of goals against Liverpool. Is there something that you think that they would be able to highlight to try and get the better of that City defence?
And the problem they're going to have is that City don't need to push their fullbacks that far forward and leave themselves with two men at the back, because they've got that goal cushion. So City can afford to be a little bit more cautious and sort of not invite Atletico to come at them, but just to try and control the game, open up their own possibilities with their possession football, and see how much Atletico are willing to risk.
Which means that a couple of playmakers would have to really step up to the core for Atletico Madrid. Who are you thinking of who could make the difference for Atletico against City?
Well, I think, you've got to be looking at those front two that they've got out there. They've played with João Felix and Antoine Griezmann throughout most of these big Champions League games. And, I presume that they're going to keep to a similar sort of system tonight. I mean, looking at the formation, you would think it's going to be Griezmann and João Felix as a two up front, with Marcos Llorente perhaps getting forward more and Renan Lodi from the wings, because that's what they didn't do at the Etihad, was get those midfield players attacking and supported so that Griezmann and Felix aren't isolated.
Do you think that City, they're capable to come up with surprises? Because Diego Simeone in yesterday's press conference said that they play in the same way no matter who they are playing against. Is that an indication that Simeone is expecting the same way or the same style of play, which means that they are a little bit easier to work out?
No, I don't know if it's a case of being easier to work out. I think what he's saying there is don't expect them to come and try and defend a one-goal lead by defending and doing very little else. That's not the way Manchester City play. They can't really play that way. And Pep Guardiola often says he wants his team to defend with the ball. But the best way to keep the opponent away from you is to have the ball yourself. And if you look at the side City are putting out there, Mahrez back in, Foden, Bernardo Silva, there's definitely an attacking feel about that side. He's dropped Sterling and Gabriel Jesus from the weekend, but that's not a negative move necessarily. It's just going to be a different kind of attack from them. So I don't think we will see a dramatically different approach to Manchester City, other than, as I said, Kyle Walker and João Cancelo. There won't be the same incentive on those players to get forward and support the attack. They'll be a little bit more cautious and watching out for Llorente and other players down the flanks.
Well, Ruben Dias is back and he's actually on the bench. Do you think he'll actually may get some playing time this afternoon?
I think only if he's 100% ready. He's coming back from injury. Stones and Laporte have done pretty well in his absence. But yeah, I mean, if City have a couple of goals lead, they might want to get him some minutes before the FA Cup semi-final against Liverpool this weekend.
Guardiola also said that he expects Atletico to be more intense in the top half of the field. Again, both these coaches are just trying to feel each other out and just read the possible game plans. How much adjustment do you think could occur in this game then if they have some preconceived notions of the other?
Well, I think both these teams have very well established ways of playing football. I mean, everybody who's watched football knows how Atletico Madrid play and know how Manchester City play. So I think what both of them are saying is don't expect it to be radically different from that just because it's a 1-0 scoreline from the first game. And I think they're both right about that. It's a matter of emphasis, and I think they are, as I've said, the emphasis for Atletico has to be on being more effective and committing more to the counter-attacks, and for Manchester City being conscious of that and being aware of that. I think that's where we'll see the nuances in the game. But I think the patterns of play we can expect Manchester City have most of the ball and Atletico Madrid to be trying to contain them for most of the game. That doesn't change just because we had a goal at the Etihad.
And at the end of the day, of course, the players will have to come to the fore in a big way. One player who did so in the first leg would have been Phil Foden, who came off the bench and affected the game in a really big way. Do you expect the English star to play a similar type of way in the second leg?
Yeah, I think he's a fantastic player, Foden, isn't he? His touch and his movement, his ability to collect the ball at speed and not lose speed as he collects it is remarkable. And he's there in a three-man attack. I would think he could play off on the left, or he could play in that false nine position. Either him or Bernardo Silva will do that. And he's an exciting player to watch. I think tonight's the kind of night he'll relish. Atletico will be watching him very closely, and he'll relish the chance to try and break free from whatever defensive plan Diego Simeone has set up to try and contain him. So someone to really keep an eye out on tonight is Phil Foden.
Having said that, Simon, we need your prediction in terms of what are you expecting this afternoon from this matchup, and of course, overall, who will get it?
I think it's a really, really interesting game because of all the reasons we've just discussed. Mm-hmm. I do think Manchester City have more quality, and I think if they can get a goal early on, it should be fairly straightforward for them. But obviously, if Atletico get one, then it's really game on. But I think Manchester City will go through, and I would say maybe 2-1 on the night, 3-1 on aggregate.
All right, Simon, thanks very much. We're going to take another quick break, but before we go to the break, there's a giveaway question. In the 2005-2006 Champions League season, Benfica went to Anfield and pulled off an amazing 2-0 win. Who are the goal scorers in that game? Of course, you can go to our Instagram page and respond to the question. These two teams weren't shy in the first leg. Liverpool, of course, came out on top by 3-1. The question is, will they be both playing the same way in the second leg? Benfica, they have it all to do, but they go up against a Liverpool team, a strong Liverpool team at Anfield. It's going to be a big one. The kickoff is just about 25 minutes away from now. Of course, the Champions League on your home of champions for 13 seasons and counting. And we're going to join Simon Evans and just to get what it's like being at Anfield on a Champions League night, because of course Liverpool, they are in the ascendancy in this quarterfinal tie. What's the mood like there, Simon?
Yeah, it really is a special place to be at for European nights at Anfield. The atmosphere is always a notch or two higher than it is for a Premier League game, and not a run-of-the-mill Premier League game, certainly. And, you know, you see the buses arrive, there's all the fans outside, the songs are a little bit louder, there's a little bit more of them. There's just a special atmosphere when it's dark and the lights are on. There's always a good away following here as well. Fans from Europe like to come to Anfield. It's something they can put on their bucket list. So the Benfica fans here tonight were in the ground way before the Liverpool supporters, singing and enjoying themselves, and the atmosphere here is starting to build up.
Brent, how much of this is an intimidating factor for a Benfica team who have probably exceeded a lot of people's expectations to be this far? They are now at Anfield tonight. How would that affect their performance, you feel?
Yeah, it certainly is a daunting task for Benfica. It's one of those facilities where you actually feel the vibration, you feel the crowd's energy, and it could be very intimidating, especially for some of the non-season professionals that have not reached to this stage in the competition or have not really played at that type of level. So, yeah, that's certainly going to be a factor. You know, we've heard so many times, and Simon would have mentioned as well, how impressive a venue it is on Champions League night. And one thing for certain, the fans will be buoyed with the fact that Liverpool is starting 3-1 to the good. So there would be an extra voice, I suspect, for tonight's one, smelling the fact that they could actually go on to win the Champions League with getting past Benfica and moving into the semi-finals.
Yeah, as we take a look at Liverpool and what is expected, of course, they're a team that, just like City, they don't like to adapt necessarily to the circumstances, but with a 3-1 advantage, how do you think they will play given the circumstances being home at Anfield as well, Simon?
Well, the interesting thing is Jurgen Klopp has rotated his side for this game a little bit, more than a little bit, really. He's left out Salah and Mane from his attack, so Firmino coming in and Luis Diaz and Diogo Jota is the front three, so that's an unfamiliar front three, really, even though it's three excellent players who we all know very well. And both fullbacks have been leg rested as well, so Joe Gomez at right back and Tsimikas at left back rather than Robertson, and no Virgil van Dijk. So, we're given that, Liverpool have come into this game with that rotation. There's going to be a lot of players playing for their places in this side, wanting to break back into the team. So that amps it up a little bit, but also gives them a little bit of an edge that they have to be careful as well, because Benfica certainly haven't rotated their side, and they'll be hoping they can get the first goal in this game, and we could have something like we had in Madrid last night.
Brent, one thing about Jurgen Klopp is that he knows how to keep his players hungry, if not angry. But the impact of Diaz coming into the starting lineup for Liverpool, it has been telling in the Premier League and, of course, in the Champions League in that first leg. I suppose you're not too surprised with the fact that he's starting again tonight.
And Simon can bear me out here. There's not many that come in the January transfer window to the English Premier League and hit the ground running like Luis Diaz and what he's been able to achieve. I think there's been a lot of question marks as to when Liverpool brought him in, and there was a feeling that they should have waited. Of course, Tottenham Hotspurs was circling at that time, and as I said, there are not many that's been able to do something like that. And not only he's hit the ground running, he's already become a very, very important player to a very talented Liverpool team. And that, again, is a testament to the man. And you could only see him going in the ascendancy as he moves forward. He's such a dangerous player. He's such a clever player. And it looks like he fits right into this Liverpool setup like he was there from the word go.
Gentlemen, let's now hear from Jurgen Klopp as he prepares for this second leg. He says the tie isn't over.
Yeah, the next game has absolutely no influence on the lineup for tomorrow night, but the last game has. So we have to see. Obviously, we have the really super intense schedule, and we have to make sure there's nobody injured, as far as I know, in this moment. But we need to have a look who is fresh enough for this game and stuff like this. It's not because we see it really as a super important game. I know we are in the world of football where you won the first leg 3-1. That means for people who have nothing to do with the game, halfway through, then you play City left and right of the game, and it's like somebody could be with the focus somewhere else. We see it slightly different, to be honest. This is a super important game to us, and obviously we said a couple of times we tried so hard last year to get qualified for the Champions League, and now we can make it to the semis, which is incredible, and that's what we want to show tomorrow night, that it means a lot to us.
Brent, Konate made a mistake at the back, and that's the reason why Benfica, they're basically still in this tie. What do they need to do right to create more telling chances? Yeah, they did create a few chances, but they just didn't convert. But I suspect that they needed a few more clear-cut chances as well.
Well, I think what they need to do might be also, of course, the Achilles heel that might see them fall even further in this tie. They obviously have to push more numbers forward to support their lead man in Darwin Núñez. But I just feel that in doing that, they will leave themselves exposed at the back. If they can get the ball to Darwin Núñez, if they can get numbers in and around him, I think they could, of course, mount some sort of a challenge. But that's a big gamble, and that would mean, of course, breaking the very rigid system that Benfica applies. So for me, as much as it is critical for them to get numbers in and around, it's also going to be very, very dangerous if they do it.
Yeah, they really would have to be sharp at the back to defy Benfica. Simon, of course, they would have played on the weekend. Do you think it takes a lot out of them, because it was really such an intense game played by Liverpool against Man City? What are you expecting from them in terms of their energy levels? Of course, they've made a couple of changes up front, but outside of that, what are you expecting from them?
Yeah, I mean, they've made a lot of changes. I mean, there's changes in midfield, Naby Keita and James Milner coming in there. Henderson is played in both those games. Jota's played in both those games, and Matip and Alisson Becker. Apart from that, they're all fresh players from the weekend. I am a little bit surprised he's done that, to be honest, but I think what helps him to do that is the 5 sub rule we have again this season. So if it does get a little bit tight, or if things are wobbly at the back, he can bring Van Dijk off the bench at half-time if he needs to tighten things up there. So he's obviously going out there hoping to get that early goal, and it's a relatively straightforward evening for them. But yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of games at the moment. They have to pick and choose. An FA Cup semi-final against City at the weekend is a big game for them, but they won't want to risk anything. And I'm a little bit surprised he's made so many changes.
I mean, could that be telling Brent the fact that he has made so many changes to the starting lineup? Because we've seen it happen before. In my mind, he's almost pulled off a little bit of a Pep Guardiola in terms of tinkering with a side that has done really well. But that has always been an issue with Liverpool in terms of them not having the depth in squad that they need in terms of the quality. So are you really surprised by the amount of changes he's made?
I think it's difficult to say simply because, as Simon rightfully mentioned, they do have a congested fixture. And not only that, they've had some really tough games in the past and tough games to come. And he may be looking at it as a situation where he has to rotate his team. There's no doubt in my mind, if you are to win the Champions League, if you are to win your domestic competition, you need not only a deep squad, but a deep squad with quality and talent. And I think the Liverpool team is arguably amongst the best in world football as it relates to depth and it relates to quality as well. So he would have complete, of course, comfort in playing these players and have the complete belief that the squad that he selected can go out and get the type of performance necessary to push Liverpool over the line.
Let's talk about Benfica for a little bit, Simon, because of course they're coming off a victory in the Portuguese Primeira Liga and they are presently third in the standings. Talk to me about what are you expecting from them, and do they have a little bit of a momentum based on what happened with them on the weekend?
It's probably been a disappointing season for them, really, to be so far behind the leaders in Portugal. And I think that puts a greater emphasis on trying to do something memorable this season in the Champions League. Look, getting to the quarterfinals for Benfica these days is an achievement in the Champions League. Can they go one step further? I think a big question is going to be, can they create opportunities for their number 9, Darwin Núñez? He's the player who's caught a lot of people's eyes. He's scoring goals, he's lively, he's a very smart technical player. And can they create the opportunities for him? And I think these changes to the Liverpool side maybe give them a glimmer of hope of being able to do that.
Brent, Darwin Núñez, I guess he's now been labelled as the £80 million man in recent weeks. That's the price tag that's been slapped on him. He now has a lot of attention. And the question is, will he be able to thrive under the pressure, under the spotlight in a big Champions League quarterfinal second leg game where his team needs him to get on top? Of course, he's your leading goal scorer in the Champions League with 5 goals. What are you expecting from him under the harsh lights at Anfield?
Well, I tell you what, he's certainly going to be coming to this fixture thinking exactly that. This is his coming of age. This is his opportunity to shine, and this is his opportunity to show why it's believed he's worth 80 million. But I think a lot of his success, a lot of what he possesses, is going to come down to whether or not, as I just mentioned, the numbers can get in around it. Everton, Ramos, etc. If those types of players can get in and around him to give him support, he certainly can't do it on his own, and he would need the support from the team. We've seen Benfica in their both games against Ajax holding a lowish type of block, and whether or not they can spring numbers forward, whether or not they can possess the energy levels to push the numbers forward. Because we all know playing at Anfield, you are going to have to match the intensity, match the environment that we spoke about as well, to even start to have a discussion about getting a result there. So for me, I think as much as he is a terrific striker and has done very well, a lot of it comes down to whether or not the teammates in and around him can join him in the attack.
And Simon, of course, I think he has eyes on the Premier League of playing there one day. And of course, Liverpool is one of the teams looking to get his signature. At least that's the word that we are hearing from a few sources. Is it something that he would think about and say, okay, I need to really step up to the plate and see if he can handle the intensity of the English Premier League by doing so tonight?
All players want to play in the Premier League. I mean, the spotlight is here, the money is here. That's obviously a big factor. The glory, the opportunity to win things in Europe as well. So yeah, absolutely, this is a chance for him to showcase his ability on a stage where other clubs will be looking at it. You know, if you're Manchester United or someone, you're going to look at it and say, well, how does he do against Liverpool? How does he do against Premier League defence? How does he do in front of 45,000 at Anfield? Those are big questions for him to answer tonight. And yeah, it comes down to what kind of service he can get. But if he gets that service, will he be able to cope with the pressure and put it away? So far, everything we've seen about him says he will be able to do that.
And of course, Brent, the question now becomes how difficult it is to overcome the deficit for the second leg.
Yeah, it's a big ask, I think. And, you know, we talked about the atmosphere at Anfield. Of course, that's a factor. I also feel the way that Liverpool play, as we all know. It's a very difficult place to go to try to get a result. And for Benfica, they're going to have to play possibly a perfect game, I think, if they are to get a result. And I think that's where I'm not sure they're able to pull that out. As Simon would have mentioned, throughout the season, they've been very spotty in their approach and they've been very inconsistent. And to ask a team to now put together, arguably, the performance of the season to get a result, and not only just get a result, but to score by 2 or more goals, 3 goals, it is a big ask.
And Simon, let's look a little bit more in depth on the starting lineup for Liverpool. Of course, you mentioned quite a few changes have been made by one Jurgen Klopp. Talk through it for me. Of course, we also see that Van Dijk is also on the bench. Konate is back in the starting lineup despite the fact that he made that mistake in the first leg. What are your thoughts with this 4-3-3 formation?
Yeah, it's a very different looking side to what we played at Manchester City. But the reason they brought in players like Luis Diaz and Simicas and Konate is to give them that strength in there. So this is a test of that. This is a test of that strategy. Liverpool wouldn't have been able to do this to it. Going to get noisy and we'll see whether those players can step up to the level expected for that.
Yeah, the background is really getting noisy at Anfield, and I can understand that because we're closer to kickoff. Brent, let's go through the Benfica starting lineup. Of course, I did ask you in terms of the quality of play you're expecting from Benfica in this second leg, and they would have won over the weekend in their Premier Division. What are you anticipating from them?
Well, first of all, I think when we looked at their performance against Ajax in the 2 legs and when they won, they did bring a high level of intensity. They did bring a high level of work rate. Vertonghen, who was out in the weekend, he comes back in with Otamendi. And of course, they would have rested several players for their positive result in the weekend. But that man Ramos there, Everton and Gonzalez, they play a critical role as it relates to, of course, supporting Darwin up front, and Tarabat at the middle of the park. He has to be solid as well, positionally, and of course, from a tactical point of view, if they are to get a result. Again, I do think that Benfica will have to try to have a clean sheet tonight if they have any chance of moving forward in this tie.
Simon, your thoughts in terms of predictions for this one?
I'm just looking at team sheet there, and you see Everton on the team sheet here at Liverpool. And what a story that would be, wouldn't it? If Everton was to knock Liverpool out of the Champions League. Well, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting one. You never walk alone. It's starting up here, so it's really starting to build up.
Yeah, we're going to be catching the rest of that song. Brent, your thoughts on the possible results for the second leg?
Yeah, I think despite the changes in the Liverpool lineup, I think the quality is still there, and I do think that Liverpool would go away winners 2-1.
All right, thank you very much, Brent. And we're really looking forward to this one, Liverpool against Benfica. The question is, will Benfica create a stink, or will Liverpool hold their advantage through this second leg? We will now join